Okay, thank you very much. Welcome everybody to the November 10th, 2020 Oceanside Unified School District Board meeting, regular meeting. We'll call the roll. Board member Stacy Begin, Vice President.
Present.
Board member Eric Joyce, Clerk.
Present.
Board member Raquel Alvarez.
Present.
Board member Eleanor Evans.
Present.
All members present and accounted for. All right. Out of closed session this afternoon, we had one item that I will report out. With conference with legal counsel, we had anticipated litigation and we made one settlement agreement of one potential case. The board unanimously voted to approve a settlement agreement in the amount of $24,077.85 by a 5-0 vote with a claimant. The next item is student representatives. We'll have student representatives address the board this evening. The first on my list is from El Camino, Brianna Shea. Brianna with us?
Hi,
Right.
right here.
Oh, good. You
Okay.
Go ahead, Brianna.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and thank you for having me. I'm the ASB president representing El Camino High School tonight. During this time, we are making the most of using our social media platforms, mostly Instagram, to reach out to our students, parents, and staff. Every day of the week, there is something new promoting our students and staff on our account. Thankful Monday. Every Monday, El Camino staff and students send in letters sharing what they are thankful for, and it is posted through our account. Get to know your peers Tuesday. A random EC student is chosen every week to share insight about their hobbies and how their quarantine has been going. What You Eating Wednesday. Every Wednesday, our ASB account posts pictures that students send in of their favorite meals. This or That Thursday. Every Thursday, our Instagram account posts polls for students to choose which they prefer. Within the past 2 weeks, we had students pick their favorite Halloween movie, candy, and costumes. Takeover Thursday. Every Thursday, I just said Thursday. Fall and Free Friday. Every Friday, EC students and staff send in fall memories and flashbacks, or just current fall-related pictures. Virtual Music Fest. Throughout the month, we will be having a virtual music fest where we will be posting 90-second videos of students showcasing their musical talents, singing and playing instruments, or dancing on our ASB account. Virtual Art Show. This past month, ASB kicked off our virtual art show with talented El Camino students sending in their artwork. Virtual Pep Rally. On October 30th, El Camino posted our very first ever virtual pep rally. Students Amy Ruiz and Elijah Morrell did an awesome job hosting the rally, along with messages from Miss Frazier and myself, along with performances from the El Camino Choir and ECDC. It is posted on our account for you guys to take a look. PALS Red Ribbon Week. On the week of October 26th to the 30th, EC's Peer Assistant Leadership Club did a Spirit Week for a Red Ribbon Week. Monday, Monochromatic Monday. Stay solid and don't do drugs. Tuesday, Wear red. Wednesday, Pet Day. Hugs, not drugs. Thursday, wear tie-dye and say peace out to drugs. And Friday, Costume Day. Say boo to drugs. National Signing Day. Tomorrow, November 11th, El Camino celebrates National Signing Day, acknowledging our senior student athletes on where they will be attending college the next 4 years. Tomorrow's Wildcats to be acknowledged are Natalie Swink, committing to play water polo at SDSU, Michael Villani, committing to play baseball at Santa Clara University, Alexandria Boyle, who should be running cross country at Sonoma State, Diego Villanueva, committing to play baseball at Cal State Northridge, and myself, committing to play softball at Pace University. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Brianna. Next up, we'll have Oceanside High, Gabby Kimbrell, and Savannah Horton. Are you there? Here we go.
Yeah, it's just going to be me today.
Okay, Gabby, go for it.
Good evening, board and community members. Thank you for allowing me to share what's happening at Oceanside High School. When the school year started, our ASB decided we wanted to find a way to give back to our community. With the restaurants and other businesses being closed and restricted, our communities were limited. We thought the best way we could help was to promote local businesses. We started in September by highlighting national holidays. Last month, we celebrated National Dessert Day. We were able to post about the St. Louis Ray Bakery and the Oceanside Bakery. On November 3rd, we celebrated National Sandwich Day and posted pictures for the Board and Brew They also gave students and staff 10% discount. Last month, we hosted two sessions for the National Alliance of Mental Health. Presenters shared their living experience in mental health journeys while providing students and staff with meaningful discussions and opportunities and resources. On October 30th, our first Proud Pirate Award was recognized and were given. These awards were given to students who've been nominated by teachers by exemplifying one of the Pirate Core values. The students were voted for the winners. Last month was Pride, and the awards were presented to Isabel Flores, 9th grade, David Hummel, 10th grade, Eleni Hernandez, 11th grade, and Alondra Mendoza Hernandez, 12th grade. Thank you for your time, and we can't wait to see you next month.
Thank you so much, Gabby. And finally, from Surfside Academy will be Denali Dunlop Aguilar.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Okay. Good evening, school board members, Dr. Vitale, and guests. My name is Denali Dunlap Aguilar, and I am a student representative for Surfside Educational Academy this evening. Surfside Academy would like to welcome all the new enrollees in our long-term virtual program who started with us this week. Surfside K-5 Independent Study recently held a drive-through spooktacular as students picked up and dropped off academic materials. Students showed off their costumes for the teachers who provided treat bags for them all. The students of Surfside K-5 Independent Study are looking forward for participating in the optional in-person classroom instruction that will begin on November 9th. Students from different grade levels will come on different days. There is also a day reserved where students that are part of a family with siblings at different levels can attend on the same day. We also have some virtual field trips planned before the end of the semester, which should provide lots of educational opportunities to our independent study students, even during this pandemic. Surfside welcomes Mrs. Kraut-Hamill to our K-5 Independent Study Program team. She will be assisting with teaching 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades. We are very happy to have her on board. Congratulations to Abraham Barthida and Caitlin Sanchez for making the Surfside High School honor roll for the first quarter. They worked hard and stayed focused to maintain a good grade point average while participating in the distance learning. Good job. Sebastian Warren Bondelier is being recognized as the first graduate of Surfside High School, direct instruction. Congratulations, Sebastian, on reaching the goal. Well done. Congratulations to our most recent graduates for Surfside Educational Academy Independent Study, Mason Benitez and DeAndre Fakwa. Both worked extremely hard to receive their diplomas 7 months early. We are so proud of you, Mason and DeAndre. Assets programs continue to be offered at Surfside virtually. Programs being offered are Credit Recovery, Monday through Thursdays, 1:30 to 2:30, Comic Arts, Monday through Friday, 1:30 to 2:30, Work Experience, Wednesdays, 12:30 to 1:30, and the GSA program, Thursdays, 1 to 2. Surfside High School Direct Instruction student Lourdes Martinez Rendon was featured in our Shark Bites newsletter this month as having 100% attendance so far this year. Way to go, Lourdes. Thank you, good evening, and a happy Veterans Day as we honor our brave men and women in our armed forces.
Thank you so much, Denali. Appreciate the
you.
excellent report.
Thank you, sir.
Good night. All right. Next item, item 3 is the superintendent's report. Julie, do you have a report for us this evening?
Approval of agenda first, Mike.
Well, okay. We'll do that. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second. I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Now, superintendent's report.
Yes, now I'm happy to give that report. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you're on the agenda.
Yes, a couple of thank yous. First, believe that you're all aware that we started our in-person hybrid learning yesterday. We welcomed back 50% of our TK5 students, PK5, and it was so wonderful to have them back on campus. Really, the way I see it is our purpose is back on campus, and there's just a renewed energy throughout the district office and at our school sites. So I want to say thank you to everyone who made that happen. And literally, I was in a couple of kinder classes yesterday, and it was as if I was amazed. It was as if they had literally been in school since August. They knew what to do, they knew where to do it, they were enthusiastic. It was not like the first day of kinder. So it was very evident that their teachers had done amazing work with them since August. So a shout out to them and a shout out to everyone who has made this possible and made that reentry of those students successful. So thank you. And sorry on this one, board, I have another thank you, and I don't mean to preempt you. Nobody ever wants to do that, but this is my time to talk about non-agenda items. And I really just need to say thank you to the Oceanside community. While the results are not final, we are passing our Proposition W at over 60%. And that is a thank you to this board who was relentless in wanting equity for our schools and gave countless hours to volunteer for that to pass. And for all of the volunteers who assisted with the countless hours with phone calls and walking precincts and everything else that we did to ensure that this was a known entity, but most of all to the citizens of Oceanside for showing up and for supporting your schools. So thank you so much. We're very, very excited, and there will be more on that to come. I'm certain all the board members will say thank you too. So I'm sorry that I was the first one, but I'm super, super jazzed. And really, Oceanside, thanks for showing up.
Thank you, Julie. Well said, and all of us echo those feelings as well. Next, board reports. Are there any that we want to do at this point? Board members, go for it. Who's first? Anybody?
I have one, a short one. With my fellow board members, I had the opportunity in October the 19th and the 27th to do some school site safety visits. We visited Laurel and San Luis Rey, Nichols and Chavez Middle School, as well as Oceanside High, to make sure we're ready for our hybrid in-person instruction, which we are. So that was great. It was great to go around and see the campuses and see all the thoughtful and intentional things that were put in place to make sure our students and staff are safe. I also had the opportunity to be in a special education parent guardian partner panel virtual meeting with our parents that have students with disabilities in our district. It was well attended, and it was great to hear the voices of our parents. I want to encourage more parents that have students with disabilities to join these meetings. Our next one is November 25th from 9 to 11 a.m. And your voice does matter. Your voice really matters when we're making decisions and talking about what's best for our students. So please continue to share your successes, your challenges, and your ideas. Thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. Eric, any report?
Sure. I had the opportunity to do a few things, and you keep reminding me of things that we did for the last month. But specifically attended CSBA COVID-19 updates from local pediatricians and public health experts, and I find it really interesting and a difficult challenge to rethink the way we think about the virus as we continue to learn more about how it's behaving in different populations and how it's the numbers and how they're fluctuating, and so it's really good to hear from those local public professionals and what they're advocating on. So we will continue to follow up with them. In fact, there's another one next week, so that we will make sure that we're in close contact with our public health professionals. I had a lot of opportunities to volunteer over this time because the district I work in is a different schedule. So I got to visit many of our community partners who are providing food and services to our community that is still in desperate need in the midst of a pandemic and as it wears on. And other government agencies are not stepping to the plate. We see the need increasing. And so it was great to see the connection that has come out of this need, where our local partnerships have really seen each other as allies and not competing for the same funds, but they're actually trying to link their resources to meet the need, which is still very great. Yes, thank you for putting your trust in the district. It was great to speak to so many families over the course of the campaign, to call and hear about so many families. Just, it's difficult, but they're making it work, and they knew how important Measure W was to our district. So we look forward to seeing the great things that it's going to do for our learners moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Raquel?
Hi, thank you. Along with everybody else, like Dr. Began said, I did school site visits initially, and then I also did a school site visit today at Laurel Elementary. So shout out to them for having me out there today. It was amazing to see our students on site. It brought a whole different feeling to me to see our students back in the classroom and how engaged they were with their teachers. I was initially a little bit leery, I'm not going to lie, about our students coming back, and so but seeing them today just made it every sleepless night worth having them back today, and being there and ready again, even to come back on Thursday and Friday, even virtually with their teachers, and being excited about doing that. That's what made my day today. And so I thank again everybody at Laurel, seeing just how everybody just came together, even with the checks, and everything just seemed to flow. The traffic flowed, the entrance to the schools flowed, their social distancing and their little PPE, everything just worked with every student. Sharing of their wonderful, cute little masks that they each had, and individualizing themselves through their masks was amazing. And so I have a huge shout out to our teachers and to our staff that made all this happen, because you all are you're the ones that are out there, and I thank you all so much. To all our families, and this whole thing of just making W what it is today, going out there and just being on the phone, texting people, and just having those conversations, good and bad, was great to hear. We always need to hear both sides of it, and it helps us to understand where you're coming from and how you feel. I know as a parent, I know that, and I want to hear your perspective of things that are going on, and I appreciate your honesty during that time that we were talking. And so thank you again for believing in the measure itself and supporting us through this. And again, like Stacy said, though, we have that special ed parent meeting. It is important that you know that that is there for you to support you. And there weren't as many people as I thought there would be, but just know, I don't know if people just don't know that it's there and that we're actually holding these meetings again. But please, if you know somebody or if you have a friend and you already attended, please invite them to these meetings, because it is a good time to be able to be there for each other and the support system for each other through this time, especially of different things that are going on. And so just again, a huge shout out to everyone. I thank you all for just, we're all in this again together. I mean, we're living it, we're going through it, and just know that as parents in the district with you, we totally understand where you're coming from on a daily basis, because we truly do understand. So again, thank you all to everybody.
Thank you, Raquel. Eleanor?
Thank you. I would like to echo what everyone else has said. Compliments for our faculty and staff for an excellent return to campus. The meeting that Trustee Joyce shared would be November the 16th. And you can contact either one of us in terms of being able to attend the meeting. It's going to be Zoomed. Palomar will continue their food distribution beginning November 21st. During the election process, they kind of stopped, but it'll continue on. As I said, November the 21st. And again, thank you for supporting the schools with your vote, and with the folks that are up for election, including myself. I just want to say thank you, because my election was uncontested. You probably didn't see my name on the ballot. And thank you again for your support.
I have one quick thing. I have one more quick thing. I'm so sorry. Can I just say one more thing?
Yes. Eleanor, were you through? I'm sorry. Eleanor, were you completed?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry. I just, I want to publicly congratulate Eleanor and Mike on your election and being elected back into your seats. So congratulations.
Okay, along with that, I was going to save it till the end, but over the weekend, I received about 3 or 4 phone calls from some very prominent people who head organizations that have thousands of members. And they're very, very impressed with the work that the board is doing with our superintendent and her leadership team in terms of how Oceanside has basically changed in a very positive direction. And I just want to say compliments again to the entire Oceanside Unified School District. You know, we are really making our mark, positive mark in California and basically nationwide. So again, you know, you just keep on keeping on. It's nice to hear. It's nice to hear, you know, that folks in other organizations and other school districts and other organizations nationwide that have taken notice of the positive work that this district is doing. And the compliments to everyone in the district for that.
Thank you, Eleanor. I would just like to say thank you to the entire community for passing Prop W. I was privately, I don't know if my board members even know it, was nervous about it when we first were deciding whether to put it on the ballot or not back in April, May, June, whenever that was. I feared that COVID had dampened everybody's enthusiasm, but I am so happy that the community got behind Prop W. It's just unbelievable. And the 60-40 margin is very significant. And I am, again, thankful to the community and all the work by the board members, the teachers, the support the community to get Prop W passed is going to pay dividends for the next 10 years. I was lucky enough to be here from 2008 through now to see the expenditure of the Prop H money, and we did remarkable work. And I think we were rewarded by that, by the public, by their vote of Prop W. And I want to thank you all for your support of me of getting reelected. I know I told you all that I didn't think I was up for reelection, but the district was, with the challenges that were quite frankly thrown out there by one of the key opponents. And while I don't usually go off school this way, I do wish to say that right wins out, and the district is in a good position, has always been in a healthy position, and we're doing the right thing. And all 4 of you, my colleagues and the superintendent, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank the teachers and the leadership of the Teachers Association and at CSAA. We're doing good things for kids, and there's nobody that's doing it any better. So thank you all for your support. All right, let's move on to the consent calendar. We do have a request on the board to pull item J, which is acceptance of the Coastal Academy Charter Schools 2020 annual report. So we will pull that for subsequent discussion momentarily. Can I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
I got a motion to approve consent calendars A through X with the exception of J. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, item J is the acceptance of Coastal Academy Charter Schools 2020 annual report. Eric, would you start off?
Yeah, this is a information item only. So I just have a couple questions.
There's some echo going on.
I think it's
Raquel, maybe? Eleanor?
I think it's both of you.
Daisy?
So I just noticed that the report is different than the ones that I had seen in the past. So I had a question of staff. I didn't see the number of students who are English language learners in the report. Is that something that is typically in these reports? And if either way, do we have those numbers?
Mr. Joyce, we'd be happy to request that from the charter school for a further report.
And let's see.
I would throw in there that I'm looking for more information on the number of students total that they have. They didn't report that in the amount, and also the jurisdiction, the educational jurisdiction or school district from which the students who are attending classical reside in. That information, we've had that in the past from them, so I would ask that they provide that information to us.
Can we include also students with special needs?
Yes, we'll request that.
And then the last one that I didn't see that we typically see on reports like this are the number of students who receive free and reduced lunch. So if we could request that as well. There was also, no, I think that exhausts all the questions I have at this time. I noticed that the academic reports were from a year prior, and that's due, I'm guessing, to our COVID-19 situation. Is that correct, Dr. Levy?
That is what the report shared, but we know that in our district, we have used our iReady data to be one of the indicators that we are looking at. And so one of the things we'd like to see is multiple measures as well. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, let's ask them for that then too. Can I ask procedurally, Julie or Mercedes, should we hold off adopting this till we get that additional information? Or should we accept it as is and then procedurally accept it as is and we've so noted that we've asked for additional information?
That's right. It's no problem to approve this. It's just information only, and we'll have no problem requesting this further information. It won't be a problem.
Okay. All right.
And
given that,
what we'll do, you go.
Julie, Eric, whichever.
So my last question was that I'd really like us to get in line on the oversight that we provide to schools that are within our boundaries. So it concerns me that we don't have even this would be the most basic information that would end up at the state level with everybody publicly seeing it. I'd like us to review our policies on how we receive this information and to make sure that the kids that live in our area are actually being served by whatever school they're attending, whether it be a school in OUSD or a school that we oversee as a charter. So I'd like to hear more about how we can make sure that that becomes a practice and it's not relying on us asking for that every year.
Excellent direction.
Will do.
Thank you.
We'll put a system in place so that the information we receive is consistent and robust enough to meet our expectations. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
One thing I would like to add is we did actually receive in the report the number of special needs students, but not the disability category. So we'd like to do that. They have 11%, but we do not know if those are students who are mod to severe, or what other conditions of their special needs.
Do they share? I have a question. I don't know if you can answer. Do they share attendance of their students starting in, say, September, continuing through June? Do they share that kind of information?
We can request that, Ms. Evans.
Okay, especially as relates to Black and African American students.
By student groups, sure, yes.
Yeah, they used to provide that too in the past, and it wasn't in this report either. They were light, let's put it that mildly, with their information offerings this time. Okay, given that and the questions that we're sending back to them, do I have a motion to accept it as it is presently?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Got
second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you guys very much. All right. Item 6, presentation. We'll receive a report from staff on the COVID-19 updates. There's no action required on this item, but it's just for public information. Julie?
That's right. So Greg will display a presentation of information, and some of the information is just to review, just to update the Board of Education on what we have in place in our schools, and to remind the public, and also to refresh some of the information. And then that will be my role in this presentation. And then Dr. Levy is going to share some new information because now that we are back in schools, we think it's very important for people to understand some clarity around what it takes. As school districts have gone back to school, there have been some that have had to close classrooms or close schools. And so we want to share the guidance around that so that the Board of Education has the actual guidance that we'll be making those decisions by. And of course, there'll be opportunity for discussions and for questions. So on the next slide, you will just see the topics that we're going to discuss tonight. And just an overview, like I said, of some of review information and then some new information, response to illness and COVID-19 cases, what is the closure process for classroom, schools, and district, and what is our planning into the future now that we're actually back in person hybrid. So on the next slide, we're going to move through quickly. This is a bad screenshot of me, your superintendent. This is the safety video that we produced and published a couple of weeks ago. Hey, we've had almost 9,000 views, so I'm just going to go with that. Those were the people that were coming back to school. And only, more thumbs up than thumbs down. So thanks for that, everybody. But it is Matthew Jennings. Thank you so much for producing that video and making sure that we're very clear about what that first day of school would look like. And indeed it did. So advancing 2 slides forward is the COVID timeline. And we've truncated, this used to be like about 6 slides, and now we're just trying to truncate the information of all the various timeframes that have happened since we started this COVID situation back in January, and where it started impacting us very specifically in March with the beginning of our schools closing on March 13th. So that's just a reminder of everything that we've been through. And on the next slide is also an additional reminder of the guidance documents that guide our decision making. These have been updated throughout the summer from their first publication all the way till now. We received guidance from the County of San Diego, from the California Department of Public Health. We received guidance from CDE, from the CDC. And we follow the guidance and we make our decisions with the guidance in mind. So as we plan for the various phases of reopening, we want you to know that these are the documents that we use to guide that process. And we keep all of the most recent versions of these documents on our reopening website. So on the next slide, we just want to remind you that all of our decisions for the various phases were made with health and safety and educational outcomes from our students in mind. The next slide reminds you of our phased in approach that started with expanded enrichment back on August 24th. And we've worked through the various phases to today, November 9th, with the return of our PK5 students in a hybrid situation. And in the future, the planning for at some point in time, full in-person services. So in our preparation for reentry, moving to this slide shows the funding sources. And I want to remind the board that these funding sources did not come to us all in one day. We were not allocated this money in one lump sum. This filtered in over time. And many of our funding decisions were made as this money filtered in. So please know that when we started the planning process of reentry, we didn't have any money. And through the various funding sources as listed here, we have been allocated $18 million. Our biggest concern is that some of this money, as delineated here, expires in 2020, which is just 6 weeks away, 8 weeks away, 12/30/2020. And there is advocacy going on at every level, at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, to have these funds continue. The legislation is written; it just needs to be approved and go through that process. And I know several of our board members are working on that, but these are political times, so we wait for that allocation. And the politics that are around that. So that's just very important for the board to know. The next slide shows the big categories of where the money is that we have spent. So of that 18 million, we've spent $12.4 million. So in personal protective equipment, and these are just 4 large buckets. So an example of things that are in that personal protective equipment category are things like plexiglass barriers, various kinds of face masks and shields, easy up shade structures for outdoor instruction, the electrostatic backpack sprayers, which disinfect our classrooms on an every evening basis, hand washing stations, disposable gloves, and HEPA air purifiers, and the list goes on and on. Technology, for example, are things like refreshed teacher devices for all teachers and a moving for one-to-one student devices. And those come in at various times because of the worldwide backlog in technological devices, but we will get there. And also an allocation to provide students with wireless hotspots. So paying for the device and also that connectivity. Instructional support for things like iReady, which is a local measure of student progress, classroom supplies for students at home, ongoing replenishment of those supplies, and other additional supports. Temporary personnel are things like increased nurses, our enrichment program, and our additional custodian at every school site. So of our 18 million, we've spent 12.4 million. We want to share that on the next slides, our staff engaged in training prior to the beginning of school. These Keenan virtual trainings, what they are modules that are dispersed to staff. I took the modules as well to receive this training virtually, and topics included safety protocols, understanding face coverings, physical distancing, and et cetera. And those Keenan modules were assigned to all staff. On the next slide, we show that there were also specialized training for nutrition services, custodians, health clerks, and other additional staff to make sure that people were prepared to come back to campus. We want to remind the board that we have significant signage in all of our office spaces and classrooms, reminding folks that face masks are required for all students and staff, what the COVID-19 symptoms are, and to remind people to stay 6 feet apart, and also the directional arrows just to help with traffic flow. The personal protective equipment provided, these are just samples. We've provided disposable masks to students and staff, even though most people are wearing their own personalized masks, because now that's something we personalize, which is, you know, a way to make it fun. But we have provided disposable masks, personal face shields, and those are the ones depicted. So if people want to wear their cloth mask with a personal face shield over, they may do that. And of course, spray bottles with cleaning solution, paper towels, and gloves in all of our classrooms and office spaces. Also, plexiglass is installed in all of our offices at school sites and the district office, and was an option for teachers in classrooms should they so desire another layer in addition to their personal plexiglass. That is a choice for them if they wanted that additional plexiglass in their classrooms. Hygiene supports and air purifiers. This is a picture of our actual hand washing stations that are at our school sites and our touchless, I call it squirt squirt. That is not hand sanitizer. I call it squirt squirt. My apologies. Julie. Touchless hand sanitizer dispenser. The tall one uses a foot pedal, and the Purell uses your hands underneath the unit. And the other device there by the hand washing station is the HEPA air purifier that I mentioned before, with a minimum efficiency reporting value of 17 filter. A MERV 17 to 20 filter is surgical operating room standard. So that's what we have provided for all of our classrooms and our workspaces, prioritizing the classrooms. So all of our elementary classrooms have those air purifiers, and we are working to provide all office spaces with that. And then when secondary resumes, they will have them as well. On the next slide, we just want to remind everybody and people, as I saw and Trustee Alvarez saw today, students wearing their masks, that we do have a mandatory face covering policy, that all students and staff must wear a face covering while on campus. So those are all of the review of information, and Dr. Lovey is going to remind us initially of some other supports that we have in place for our families, and then move into some of the new information about what it means to be back in school and what are those processes we must consider when we have cases on campus. So Dr. Lovey, thank you so much, and you may take it from here.
Thank you, Dr. Vitale. As we know, this has been a challenging time for our families, our community, and our students. And throughout this, our staff, who are also having their own families, have been thinking about what ways we can continue to provide the needed resources, both physical and emotional needs, for those needs that people have. So the first thing that we're thinking about is that we wanted to really make sure that we provided virtual parent, guardian, and caregiver academy workshops. These were provided on particular topics like how to log into your online classroom, how to access your Aries, how to work with iReady. And these were live and recorded sessions for our families. So those families who wanted to attend for a synchronistic time, like we're doing now for our board, or could also see a recorded session. We also had a virtual learning website that would have resources for families about academics, technology, supports for behavior for managing online learning, and for creating systems in your home for online learning. We're also very excited about having virtual support tutors, but they're actually credentialed teachers. And these are teachers who are at the ready for our students and are available in the afternoons, both by appointment and in drop-in hours, so that those students who are at home learning can have the supports that they need to access. And we've also made sure that we continue to update our community resource guide, which tells our families about the resources in our community for food, housing, mental, and physical health that they can access. Next slide, please. Another thing that Oceanside Unified School District has done is work very hard to provide information technology services. We have call-in lines for not just our employees, but for our families. And that equates to around 18,000 users on a daily basis. And to give you an idea of the call volume for our information technology services, on 8/17, or on August 17th, on the day that we opened, we had over 3,500 calls. A month later, in September, we had 600 calls. And last week, we are down to 210 calls per day. So this has been a great effort, and we have had great support from all of our employees, including some of our security personnel who have been helping with addressing that call volume. Next slide, please. Our nutritional services and our security personnel have been having a great time welcoming and being warm to our families and providing meals at the curbside. And since the close of physical school in March, we have served over 1.5 million meals to our Oceanside community, which is truly an extraordinary effort led by our nutrition services. Next slide, please. One of the things that we know has been a challenge for families is how to navigate having a safe, secure, and supportive environment for their children while they're working. And how do we start thinking about how do we provide that kind of supervision and support? So as Dr. Vitale talked about, since August 24th, we have had the expanded enrichment program, which is a program where students can come together on campus to be supervised during normal school hours and be able to provide those supports to families that need them. And so what we are doing is we also know that we have families that now that we've gone into hybrid had requested that we would have full day programming. So we actually have two programs led by Ms. Wiggum. The first program is our model that we have had since August 24th. This is a model where we have students who are in a 5-day-a-week program from 7:30 to 3 o'clock. And we have program 2, which is an after-school program where families who had requested can have an extended day up until 5 o'clock on the days that their children are in the cohorts. What we do know is that these have been very, very popular programs. In K-5, we have over 350 students enrolled in the program. We are operating this program at 15 school sites. We do have a wait list of 209 students, but that is only one site, has 115 people on their waiting list. Of the other school sites, 12 of our school sites have 0 to only 6 people on our wait list. And as we continue to be able to expand by having more more spaces on school site campuses, we'll continue to enroll more and more students. We also have our secondary learning center. Our secondary learning center is a place for our students in middle school and high school to go to work in a quiet space, to be able to have supervision, and to be able to have an opportunity during the virtual learning instructional periods to be able to really focus on that learning. We have 190 students at the secondary levels enrolled with at each of the high school sites. At OHS, we have 1 student on a waiting list. At El Camino High School, we have 2. At King, we have 6. At Lincoln, we have 2. At Jefferson, we have none. And at Chavez, we have 1. So we continue to want to expand our programs to meet the needs of our community and to make sure that our families have the supports for supervision of students and learning supports as needed. Next slide, please. We also know that during our pandemic, mental health has been at an all-time time of need. We know that our families and our children are experiencing crisis on an everyday basis. And as we have been approaching this, what we do have is our OUSD counselors. These are school counselors that are at each of our school sites, and they have been providing virtual lessons to our students on social emotional learning, being able to work with families and with students to address the needs that they have. We also have partnerships with Palomar Family Counseling, Vista Community Clinic, Wellness Together, and North County Lifeline to provide a mental health support network to address the needs of students who might have more needs than perhaps our counselors could address in a more therapeutic way. And then today on our agenda, our board agenda, we're asking for an MOU agreement with Care Solis. This is a mental health counseling support service provider. They're not a provider. What they do is they provide 24 hours a day, 7 days a week support for call-in to allow families to be able to identify those mental health supports that are available to them, both through their own private insurance and in the community, and be sure that those supports are available to them in a timely manner. So one of the advantages of this is it allows people to access that counseling that they need in a timely manner, because we know sometimes it's very challenging when you need mental health support to actually get that mental health support, because maybe it would take more time to get somebody back to you or to call again. And this service is going to be very important if the board approves it. What we know is in the springtime, with a very soft launch of this, we had over 240 students supported in finding mental health supports in the spring during the first part of our pandemic. Next slide, please. One of the things that we know is on everyone's mind is the idea that right now we're in a tiered system, and the news has been full today of the fact that San Diego County is in the purple tier. And so one of the things that we know from our guidance is that schools that are in-person learning continue to be open for in-person learning, even as San Diego County moves into the purple tier. This is a school by school decision and not one that is a district decision. So in the two examples, elementary schools are providing in-person instruction learning now, and that closures, should they happen, would be described in response to specific COVID-19 cases at sites and classrooms, which we will go into further detail later in the presentation about what would trigger that. But in the second example, secondary schools do not yet have in-person instruction. So while the county is in purple, they would not be able to re-enter for in-person learning until the county is in the red tier. And this is based on the statewide guidance. Next slide, please. So as Dr. Vitale said, we've done a lot of work on prevention of the spread of COVID-19. We have provided training, we have provided PPE, we have provided a smaller cohort for students so that they are protected in a smaller group. And so now that we're in hybrid learning, we also want to make sure that we continue to not only prepare, but reduce the spread of COVID-19. So that first step really is around monitoring symptoms. So one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that we're asking people to monitor yourself. Are you not feeling well? And if you're not feeling well, please do not come to school. In addition to that, we are taking temperatures of all of our students to make sure that students do not have fevers before they come to school. As we know, symptoms can sometimes manifest themselves in different ways. So we want to make sure that we're being very cautious to ensure that we reduce the spread and we allow our schools to stay open for as long and as robustly as possible. Next slide, please. So sometimes when people see the symptoms list, they say, well, what happens when a child has a symptom? You know, my child might often have allergies or a runny nose. So one of the things we really would like is for you to be working with the health clerk or nurse. And if your child has one or more symptoms, you actually have two options. You can contact your family physician, or you can not contact your family physician. If you have a symptom, we'd ask that you'd stay home from in-person learning for 10 days from the onset. And you can return on the 11th day if your symptoms go away and you have had no fever for 24 hours without medication. And this is a way to protect all of us. So that's if you choose not to contact the physician. The second path, yes, Mr. Joyce? Okay. The second is if you contact your physician, your physician can also request for you to take a COVID test or to not take a COVID test. If there is no COVID test, then you would stay home 10 days from the symptom onset and after the improved symptoms. If you do take the COVID test and it turns out to be negative, you can return to school within 3 days. So we want to make sure that everyone knows that the County of San Diego has free testing for children and people who work in schools at many locations, that they can get that free test and return to school with a negative result. Next slide, please. In addition to that, we want to make sure that as we do start to have students who may, or staff who may have a positive COVID-19 test, that we take specific steps. And the first one is that we are going to be working closely with our local health officers and our local county nurse to make sure that we report this so that we can have contact tracing take place. We want to make sure that the students or staff are excluded from school for 10 days or from the test date, and we'll go more into that. We also are going to do contact tracing. We're going to do increased disinfection of the classroom, and we're going to also encourage everyone to take a test. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we want to make sure is that we do think about that each and every case in response to a COVID-19 positive case, we do have some guidelines about whether that would be that we're looking at a cohort or we're looking at specific individuals who are defined as close contacts, as it is noted in the CDC. Right now, the CDC defines close contacts as those people who are within a COVID-19 confirmed positive case, within 6 feet of that person for at least 15 minutes, for a cumulative of 15 minutes within 6 feet for 24 hours. Next slide, please. So we also want to think about these three things in conjunction. So it's really 3 different numbers: 14, 10, and 3. So the first one is the staying home from school for 14 days or work if you are a confirmed close contact with someone who is confirmed. We want to do this to avoid spreading COVID-19 further to people who might be vulnerable. And we want to make sure that we're protecting our community. And so if the reason that there is 14 days, the longest with being close contact, is that there is a delay between close contact and symptom onset. And so what the science says is about 14 days is when you will see whether a person has been infected who has been in close contact with the COVID-19 positive case. The other part is if the individual themselves is tested positive for COVID-19, they need to stay home for 10 days because that's about the time that the CDC has said for the disease to run its course. While we do know there are some individuals who are sick longer, this is what the recommendations are. The other thing is if you just have a symptom, this is where we get to that 3 days. So if you just have a symptom, you get a negative COVID-19 test result, your symptoms clear up, and you are back in in-person learning in 3 days. So again, 14, 10, and 3. Next slide, please. So I know oftentimes for me, when I was first told about the 14 days for students to be home, that's a very long time. So this graphic shows what might happen. So the first column in yellow identifies numbers of days. And then I'm sorry, not the first column, the first row has in yellow shows the days. The next row shows the days of the week. The next row shows the cohort B. And the bottom row shows cohort A. So for example, if you look on Saturday, day 1, there is a positive case of COVID-19 in cohort A. That student would then need to stay home and be able to access their virtual learning or their Google Classroom or their Seesaw on Monday and Tuesday of the first week and on Monday and Tuesday of the next week, and could be able to return to school the following day. So essentially the 14 days works out to be a 4-day missing of in-person instruction. So we wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. It's 14 days at home, but still being able to participate in the asynchronistic learning, just 4 days home from the in-person learning. And if we're talking about 10 days, it could be as few as 3 days before a student is back. And then on top of that, with a negative case, we could also see a student who misses no in-person instruction. Next. We also want to be thoughtful, as we talked about before, now that we are open for hybrid instruction at our elementary level, class code closures will be handled on a case-by-case basis. This will be done in partnership with our county health officials. And what we know is that there are some cohort quarantines that we need to follow. So in a classroom that has a positive COVID-19 case, that cohort would be quarantined. But as you saw on the previous slide, only cohort A is quarantined. I'm sorry, cohort B is quarantined. The other cohort would still be allowed to come to in-person instruction, and there would be a substitute provided. The teacher, if well enough, could continue to provide virtual instruction for the cohorts A and B, and all students would receive virtual instruction. And those parents and families who wanted to come to school for in-person would be able to come to school with a substitute. If the teacher tests positive for COVID-19, both cohorts A and B will quarantine, and a sub will be provided for virtual instruction during this quarantine. The teacher may also continue to teach if both cohorts virtually, if they are feeling well enough to do so. Next slide. School closure is dependent upon the number of classroom closures in a 14-day period. So what we have from the guidance, and again, we will be working with our health officials, is that a school would close if 5% of the students and staff were COVID-19 positive. So you can see the importance of making sure that as we have symptoms, we stay home so we do not have larger outbreaks. In OUSD, in our schools, 5% of staff and students is between 20 and 30 individuals. 5% of classroom cohorts is between 2 to 5 classrooms being closed within a 14-day period. And as such, our Human Resources Department and our Student Services Department will be watching carefully to make sure that we are tracking where we may have COVID-19 cases. Next slide, please. Much like school closure depends on classroom closure, District closure in response to COVID-19 closure for in-person instruction would be about how many schools within a 14-day period are closed, and that's 25%. So in OUSD, that would be 6 schools in a 14-day period would have positive COVID-19 closures. Next slide, please. We also know that it's very important for families and our community to have transparency about where we may have COVID-19 cases. In a previous board meeting, we heard about different neighboring districts who had opened earlier than we had for in-person learning, and some people had said, well, they haven't had any cases. Well, actually, we want to do is we want to report active cases. So on our district website, each of our school sites is listed, and parents can see how many active cases are currently in any of our schools. And this is available. It'll be on our publicly facing dashboard and is live right now. Next slide, please. So we also know that the county has some top 5 questions about students returning to the school. And these are things like, my child has a cough and a runny nose, but no fever. Do they still need to go home for 10 days? And yes, we do need you to stay home for 10 days if there is one or more symptom. But again, as we talked about before, if those symptoms clear up and they have a negative COVID-19 test, they can return to school. Can students return to campus without a negative COVID-19 test? Absolutely, they can. It will take 10 days and also a clearing of all symptoms. Even a student who has tested previously for positive for COVID-19 is not required to have a negative test to return. But again, to be free of symptoms and having been out for the 10 days. If a student or employee has been in close contact with a confirmed COVID-19 case, how long do they have to wait to return to work? Again, that'll be 14 days from the last exposure. So sometimes there's confusion about, well, is it from the time I found out or from the time I was exposed? So for example, if somebody was exposed on Friday before a weekend, we would start counting from Friday. And if we found out about it on Sunday, we wouldn't count from Sunday. We would count from Friday, the 14 days before people could return. And then the question is, can a student or employee return to school or based on a doctor's note? It says the only way to come back earlier than 10 days after symptoms is with a negative test and a resolution of symptoms for 72 hours. Unfortunately, without a negative report, we can't be sure of what has happened with the students. And what they have said is that even a negative C19 test will not shorten the 14 days of quarantine after a close contact has been reported, because of the fact that sometimes there's a false negative or false positive, and that is our local health guidance. All of these questions are on our county health website, these and more, and we have taken these specifically from that website. Next slide, please. So as we think about our wonderful opening, and I know many of you have been able to go to the school sites, we know that the kids are excited to be back at school. The teachers have done an amazing job preparing warm classrooms, decorated classrooms, and even preparing by practicing wearing face masks during their virtual learning so that they were ready for the re-entry into in-person learning. And all of this has been successful based on the collaboration with our employees, the feedback from families, where we've had over 4,000 people provide feedback either through surveys or focus groups. It's also been important that we have rooted all of our decisions based in the blueprint for a safer economy, guidance from the California Department of Public Health. We've monitored local health data, and we've made sure that we have PPE, equipment, training, and communication. Each of these things together has created an entire wraparound service, wraparound place that we can really be successful and move forward together to continue to balance the educational and health needs of our community staff and students. So we want to continue with the same type of thoughtful moving forward as we think about how we can continue as time goes on and health conditions improve, to continue to have that collaboration, continue to have the feedback, continue to follow the science and the health data. Next slide, please. So as we know that we will be going through our state tiers, We know that with moving into purple, that different industries have had to change their approach. And we also know that as we go in from purple into red, into orange, into yellow, that we want to be thinking about how can we increase our educational opportunities while maintaining a healthful environment. And we believe we can do that through collaboration with our work groups by getting feedback from our families. And our plan is to be thinking about the days when we can return students to more in-person instruction. So thank you very much to the board for your guidance. And I appreciate also all of the staff who've worked so many hours, our teachers, the teams at the district office and ESS. So thank you very much.
Thank you, staff. We do have one or two speakers indicating a desire to speak on this option. Do you want me to call them up now, board members, or do you have some questions for staff you'd like to get out right now? Call for the public. Okay.
Public comments, please.
Great. Anne, would you call the first couple names?
Yes, Sandra Carmona and Victoria Mariani.
Thank you. Sandra? Greg's finding Sandra, I guess. I hope.
Sorry.
Here we go. We hear you. Yes, we can. Go for it, Sandra.
Hi. Yes, I have 4 children in the Oceanside Unified School District, and given that San Diego County went up to the purple tier in COVID cases, and then also looking at the COVID cases and the quarantines and the school closures and Vista, and then also considering that your school board meetings are not held in person because of the pandemic, I honestly was shocked that you guys reopened the schools. Nonetheless, I understand that safety measures were taken, but I don't think it's safe to return to in-person school. Therefore, I didn't send my children to school this week. I was told that there are only 2 options for kids. One is risk their health and the health of my family and send them to in-person school. And then the other one is to send them to Surfside Academy, which, by the way, is not a good option for us. Keeping the kids at their home school is. And I often hear that parents' voices matter. I attended a lot of the pre-opening meetings, and many parents requested for full virtual school and voiced similar concerns, but we were ignored. I also emailed my school admin, the school board, and only Liliana Gonzalez replied. So thank you, Liliana. However, it was just to thank me for my concerns. There was really no answers and no relief to my predicament. So, it's unacceptable to pull our kids from their home school. It's unacceptable to dump them off to Surfside Academy, where there's not even spots available. My kids have been on the wait list for several weeks now, and there's no knowing when they're going to be accepted. And it's also, not acceptable for the kids to be left in limbo without receiving any academic instruction, which is where my kids are right now. I feel the school board has failed us, and perhaps, you guys need to look for an alternative plan to this hybrid program. Maybe live streaming pre-recorded hybrid sessions, separate hours, for a virtual school. At the very least, not reopening the schools until all the kids had an adequate placement based on their needs. And there's a lot of us in this situation, and I really urge you guys to find a solution for us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Sandra. Next speaker. Victoria? Unmute, Victoria, maybe?
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, board members, OUSD staff, students, families, and community members. I'm Victoria Mariani, 20-year Oceanside teacher of grades K through 6. I'm speaking tonight about the hybrid learning program that OUSD started yesterday in its elementary schools. I find it very telling that OUSD chose to hold this board meeting virtually when teachers and staff at elementary sites are required to meet with students in person. It is difficult to respect leadership whose messages do as we say, not as we do. I understand that the pandemic and subsequent shut-in was unprecedented, and I do applaud the Oceanside Teachers Union and OUSD leaders for working together to create a learning plan for students during this world health and economic crises. District leaders initially presented their plan at a prior board meeting and stated that a survey had been given to all OUSD families and that the number of students who were hesitant to return to school physically was noted. And those students would be able to receive their education via a distance learning plan in the event that scholars returned to campuses. However, this information was vague and it was not explicitly explained to either parents or teachers that these students would not be continuing on with their current teacher and classmates, but would be assigned to a random teacher at Surfside Academy with classmates from various OUSD schools. I recently learned that Surfside Academy is full and that there is a waiting list for that program. In addition, several students from Garrison and San Luis Rey, who I would describe as at or above grade level with strong family support, have struggled at Surfside, and one even returned to San Luis Rey after only 2 days. It has come to my attention after speaking with at least 6 parents of students in my class that there are a significant amount of families in Oceanside who want their scholars to remain with their current teacher, yet are hesitant to send their children physically back to school. They feel this way for a variety of reasons: the rising cases of COVID in the county, the approach of flu season, and underlying health conditions of family members living in their households. Any major change is disruptive to students, and no educational program is a one-size-fits-all for all students. Many of my students who are reluctant to return physically to school have had dismal test scores for consecutive years, and I have worked hard alongside my student teacher to reignite their love of learning and scaffold lessons to cultivate success, grow their confidence, and enable them to access 5th grade academic content standards. I humbly propose that OUSD consider adding a cohort C to elementary school classes. These students would do the online work posted for the week for cohorts A and B, as well as utilize site and district learning programs such as Benchmark, GoMath, STMath, and iReady. They would be able to check in daily with their teacher from 2 to 3:30 and attend whole group digital class on Wednesdays. When their parents feel safe enough to return their child to campus, they would join either cohort A or B, or eventually and hopefully their entire class. I implore you to consider my request, as this solution best meets the needs of scholars and their families, as well as causes minimal disruption to students' learning environments. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Victoria. All right, board members have any further questions for staff? This was an information item. We've had some very, very good presentation from Mercedes and Julie.
I do. I have one.
Daisy, yes.
So is there a waiting list for virtual learning? And if so, how many students are currently on it for our Surfside?
Thank you for asking, Dr. Begin. We do have a waiting list. We had 3 opportunities for families to sign up, and we did create a wait list, and we were able to put some of the students on a first come, first serve, include them in the Surfside. Currently, we have 167 students on the wait list.
Is that wait list gonna ever resolve itself, or because of contract limitations or other constraints, do you see right now that there's any magic solutions?
I just contacted Dr. Sparks. He says there will be additional students admitted on Thursday. We're finding that some families may decide to change their mind about going to Surfside, and they may decide that they want to come to in-person. So what we believe is the reason we collected this list is so that we can make those adjustments to go with our staffing that we have in place.
But because of generalized, I guess, hiring constraints, I think you've mentioned it before, but just to reiterate, we don't have as much flexibility as we would like to have to hire more teachers into Surfside right now. Is that the issue, basically?
Yes, at this point, we have been planning for over probably about 6 weeks and working very hard with human resources, because one of the things we know is that we wanted to make sure that the students follow the teachers, and we want to make sure that those students and families who are in hybrid also have a consistent program as much as we can.
One thing I noticed in the district that I work in is we had a lot of families talking about and really being worried about coming back. And after the first couple of weeks, and after they saw how safe the environment was and what the kids are actually getting out of hybrid, the ones that could come back by choice, there was a significant shift of students and families that chose to come back to the in-person learning hybrid model. So I know that is part of the dynamic and part of the trouble with any kind of shifting of dates is there are some families that wait later to make the decision, and I know that's a struggle. Um, Getting any student away from their community school is taken extremely seriously. I know that that's the community schools. I think are the heart of what elementary schools really serve. So, yeah.
That's good. Good point, and encouraging news actually from your experience down south there.
So I have a question. How many students are going to be admitted on Thursday? I missed that if you said it.
I don't have that number just yet. I know Dr. Sparks is listening, so he's sharing some information. We have admitted over 410 students to Surfside for virtual learning, which, to give you a perspective on that, that's the size of many of our elementary schools. So we basically have created a additional middle school. On Thursday, we will be able to admit 40 students from the wait list of 167. So that would be around, we'd only have a wait list of 137, although that wait list does change as people do add, and we do check. We go down on a case-by-case basis, and sometimes people have changed their mind by the time we do get to them. We've experienced that.
May I ask, how many students do we currently have at Surfside?
Between the high school and I know that I can tell you for the elementary virtual, we have one classroom of TK, 3 classrooms of kindergarten, 3 classrooms of first grade, 3 classrooms of second grade, 3 classrooms of third grade, and then 2 classrooms of fourth grade and 2 classrooms of fifth grade. And those are all filled to the contracted maximum.
I'm super concerned with the communication with these parents that they're on a waiting list. You know, we are creating spots for them because they're going to go to other school districts. This is a huge concern. That are we communicating to these parents? I've been on Facebook. I've seen some of the comments. Is school starting? What's it going to be? I mean, there's a lot of misinformation or they're not accessing it. So I'm not sure what we're going to do to improve that.
Yes, we really want to make sure everyone does reach out and make sure that they are on the wait list. We are communicating daily with the parents who are on the wait list. This Saturday, when we did the rollover from students in their school of residence to Surfside, we did communicate the principal, Eric Franson, did communicate with the families, and currently we have 1,000 students between the high school and our virtual program enrolled at Surfside.
Great.
So we always have room to improve in our communication, and we will continue to do everything we can to communicate as much as we can.
Stacy, I just would like to clarify one thing too, because there isn't an ability for a parent to just pick up now in COVID times and say, I'm going to Carlsbad. They can't just do that. So parents are stuck in a sense. I understand the frustration.
No, but they can go to charter schools or private schools. It just depends on their comfort level. So, and there's just, things keep changing. We just went back in the purple tier. I mean, the rules change, the climate changes, we're learning more, we get less information, whatever, the political climate, all of that just puts everybody at unrest. So, you know, just having some grace and assuming good intentions from our parents and staff that we're going to try to make this work. But yeah, the communication is huge with parents because it is, there's a lot of anxiety. I have a middle schooler, so I get it. And, you know, I'm anxious about January. So.
No, I am too, and I hear you. That's a really good point, and I'll be interested to catch after this first week the total number of students that showed up in the K through 5 at the schools in the hybrid, and what that number is. And I would expect it, as Eric saw his experience down south, that as there's some faith and trust in it, and the experience is positive. For the kids, that that word of mouth will move out there into the community, and more kids will show up. That's the hope, right? And we got a couple of weeks of this now, and then we got a week's worth of Thanksgiving vacation, and then a couple more weeks, and then we got 3 weeks of Christmas. So kids will be into that flow, and like you said, we do have a decision to make in probably December about the purple tier issue if it sticks for our secondary and high school kids. We actually won't have a decision to make if the purple tier sticks. At that level, we won't be able to start in January. So
Well,
But any-
I have huge concerns about secondary, just learning from our neighboring school districts and how they pull. Anyways, I'm just really concerned for the safety as well as the educational experience for our secondary students, middle and high school, because they're in a routine right now. They've got a handle on their distance learning. We have supports in place to help them. I'm not sure how we're going to safely, as a school district, have these kids back on campus, hybrid or not, to keep them socially distanced and safe for both them and the staff.
Well, let's
We're
just
gonna
see
have
how
to
this
talk about it.
plays out over the next 4 weeks, because like I said, I think we'll be in purple, so we won't have a decision to make. The state's making it for us for secondary and high school kids. We won't be able to start.
I know that's very disappointing to hear that, we're going to wait on the state.
Well,
The high school is so crucial in terms of life changes and life-making decisions these students our scholars have to make, and our families have to make. We need to be a little bit more proactive in terms of that. The thing about high school, as you know, it's like you really can't have cohorts because of the classes and the kinds of classes. And then you have the issue of sports, which a lot of students are dependent upon in terms of what kind of career and academic changes they want to enter into or do. So I don't know. I'm worried. That's the bottom line. I'm really worried in terms of, for our high school students.
It's mind bending. I guess we can hope for the vaccine to get out there fast and furious coming, after the first of the year. Keep our fingers crossed for that.
That's an entirely new issue in terms of who's going to get it, what priorities are, and who will refuse to take it.
Yeah. But that's a different problem, and one that I welcome compared to the one we've been in. That's for sure. Any other questions? Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I know. Just since we're talking about a high school, I'll stay there. I know there are some other
echoes. I got some echoes. I'm sorry.
I know there are some other districts that are trying out some other models of instruction in high school. I know that's not happy to hear it November 10th before, 2 months before. It's a short turnaround, but I know there are some districts that are looking at having some of the kids cohorted at home. I just know that instructional practices in middle and high school are different than elementary school. And so I just want to know if you or your team had thought there might be any other considerations for like levels of safe instruction in middle and high school. Like, is there a model that we know of that is more conservative or less conservative that we could think about either deploying one or the other, given the infection rates at the time that we do choose to come open?
Yes, we're looking at all possible scenarios. We've been looking at every local district, everyone across the country, trying to see what will suit our Oceanside students the best. That again, go back to our initial thought about balancing the educational and health needs of both. So that is definitely a driving factor. We reach out to our practitioners, to our teachers, we reach out to other districts, and we just definitely are looking into every option that we can find.
So we have the middle school model again to look at our next meeting, since it'll be the last meeting prior to the proposed reopening date, to just review and make sure that everybody understands the full breadth of it. Yeah, the secondary reopening model. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll do that in December. Do I see staff shaking their head yes at our December meeting? And I suspect there may be some decision point potentially for us at that meeting too. We'll see just how it unfolds, but
Mike, also what I want to say is I know that, we say we have one more meeting, but also we can call a special meeting of the Board of Education as data changes through winter break. Sure. So just because the students are on winter break doesn't mean that we get to break. So we can have that meeting to consider that data. And that first week of January, I believe it's the 4th, we're still out of school, but we would still have some decision-making possibilities there. And I know, last minute, but if the data stays in the purple, we can just confirm. So just know that we can call another meeting to have those discussions.
Right. Good point. Mercedes, one question, just not to belabor this, but you mentioned that under the Secondary Learning Center or one of the extended day programs, we had over 100 and some on a wait list there. What school was that? Just out of curiosity?
Reynolds Elementary.
At Reynolds, huh? Interesting.
So-
Is there a reason that there's that many there, or just?
We're continuing to investigate to see where we can address the needs, find out what are the possibilities we have. As we are welcoming students back to school, the number of classrooms that we can provide supervision in reduces because students are in those classrooms during the day. So we're going to continue to monitor that. I know that Ms. Wiggum and Dr. Sparks are doing everything they can to find out where those needs are, find out where the providers are, and to be able to support as much as we can.
Okay.
Mr. Blessing, you also asked, I'm really proud to tell you that we did have a first day cohort of in-person learning, and our attendance rate that day was 96.7 of students who came to that first day of hybrid.
Wow. Wow. Great. Fantastic. I know those percentage numbers are kind of funky at times, but that's great. All right. No further questions then. This was an information item. Yeah.
I do have some more.
Yeah, Eric.
Okay. So first off, thank you. That was a lot of work and a lot of great information. I had a question about technology. So when I did a lot of the visits, I found families had been really frustrated with Chromebooks and their connection to the internet, and the common complaint with it was that they would be kicked off the internet or not be able to stay in Zoom for significant amounts of time. Is that what can we attribute that problem to, and is that something that is being addressed?
Was this recent, Eric, or in just in the past or beginning, or just
a week and a half ago?
Yeah,
week and a half ago was the most recent, but this is I've been hearing in some cases like at the community center, they ended up getting donated laptops and they had to just give up on the Chromebooks that they were using or trying to use.
That's an issue with the Chromebooks. They're not they're cheap. That's the bottom line. I'm having the same experience, and basically we end up just buying a new computer. Chromebooks. I said years ago when the district went in that direction, but most school districts are going because they're inexpensive, and which means that more students will be able to have access to the internet.
Two things Two things for clarification. Eric, on the connectivity, do you know, did they have hotspots or was it with our hotspots? Just curious.
So this was connected to the large scale Wi-Fi that was at the center.
Okay.
So that one, and then also.
So two things I'm going to have Greg Moon speak to. The first is the availability of hotspots. I combined Wi-Fi and hotspots of hotspots that are district issued. So he's going to give us an update on that and where we're at and the fact that we're still taking requests for that. And then he's also going to speak to the fact that we are moving towards the Google ecosystem as our district standard, and maybe the readiness for where we're at with Google Meet versus Zoom. It's not that Chromebooks are cheap or terrible. It's that they don't play nicely with Zoom, or Zoom doesn't play nicely with them, whatever that works. But we do have a solution. It is in Google Meet. We did not want to impose another transition upon teachers and students as things are changing quickly, but I know we had some initial lead learners who were out there in front already using that system. So I think I've given him enough time to gather his thoughts and share that information both now about hotspots and our move to the Google ecosystem and Google Meet. So Greg, will you give us an update to try and answer that question that Eric asked, please?
he on? I don't hear him.
Our technology director is having some technical difficulty. He'll be with us momentarily. He's operating a lot of different gadgets. He'll be with us.
What about now?
There we go. We got you.
Perfect.
Okay, Greg, thank you.
Yeah, these things, they bug me every day. So on hotspots, we're around the 600 mark on distribution right now, covering nearly 1,000 kids. We still have stock available. We're still filling orders as they come in from school community advisors. And that should not be an impediment to anybody being able to connect. As far as Chromebooks go, the Chromebook Zoom phenomena or train wreck, somewhere on that spectrum, is a countrywide, if not worldwide, issue. Zoom was a fortunate recipient of being in the right place at the right time when the virus took off. They were never set up to be a K-12 provider. They were just very fortunate that K-12 needed that. They were willing to give it away because that's a business model on getting people hooked. They have updated their software as Google has with Meet, starting about that third week of March. They knew that things weren't running well. We have neighboring districts that I've spoken with that went all in on Zoom and have multiple thousands of Chromebooks, and their user experiences have been less than stellar. We made the decision a while back to stick with the Google products, for better or worse. They are very deliberate in their development of those products, but once the product is working, it sticks and it's around forever and ever. So we upgraded our Google domain to the Enterprise Edition, which gives us all of the benefits of the improved Meet. So this is something that Google and Zoom continue to work on. They've been updating software on almost a weekly basis for several weeks now, and they'll put out incremental updates to that. Just like we don't have, no matter what machine's sitting in front of you, we don't have ever a perfect experience, but we have pretty good experiences enough to get business done. That's where we expect Chromebooks to be. We also have Chromebooks of varying ages out there. Some are past end of life support, some are newer. So there's a lot of variables that could contribute to that, but we're confident going forward that the Chromebooks that we have on order and the Chrome tablets we have on order for the K2 will be more than sufficient to handle the Google products, including Google Meet, in order to conduct virtual teaching and learning.
Greg, have we worked out a timeline at all to switch our folks over to Google Meet as our lead learners have been trying out the project?
We took the stance of we weren't going to prohibit anything as like Zoom. We're not going to prohibit Zoom, but we're also not going to encourage it. So I know that there are certain schools that the principals have taken it upon themselves to encourage the staffs that they will switch over to Meet because it is a substantially more secure product, and the more Zoom issues they had with outside people infiltrating classrooms, the more motivation the principals had to help their staff understand that they need to switch to that product. This is personally, I don't think we've talked about this, but I'm of the mind that we let people figure out through their own experience. We can make recommendations. We can put out announcements. We can provide support. But to mandate something, usually prohibition and mandates are not often met with open arms. So we're supporting Google Meet and those experiences, and referring Zoom issues to software updates, and we can try to refer people to Zoom support, but Zoom support won't even talk to people at high levels in corporations, let alone little K-12 school districts. So there's not really a support mechanism in place to contact Zoom.
We do have our lead tech learners at every site, as well as our teachers on assignment here at the district office. And Google Meet has certainly increased their functionality So if you haven't taken a look at that lately, set up maybe a Google Meet with people over the weekend or over the Thanksgiving holiday. They do have a lot of new features that they didn't have just a couple of months ago. So that might be a way to encourage people to start moving over to that product and having better connectivity.
We're not using Google Meets now, though. We're using Zoom.
That's correct. It's a different product. We're using, Greg, what's it called? It's called Zoom.
This is a Zoom webinar as opposed to the meeting.
Webinar, just different functionalities in this product.
So I do have a question. I know we ordered new Chromebooks for students. Is there a schedule for those being deployed? And if so, when?
As soon as they come in the door. We've had many of these back ordered for months. There is a worldwide supply shortage, and every vendor has their own song and dance about what that looks like. We've expressed to our vendors who are pressing on their suppliers that we would really appreciate our stuff coming in sooner rather than later, but every school district is experiencing the same thing. We are one of the larger customers for the vendor that we work with, so we're not sliding behind somebody else's order or anything like that. I've been assured of that. It just depends on the supply. These Lenovo 100Es, which we have on order for grades 3 through 12, are in super high demand. Tariff issues forced production from China offshore to India, Taiwan, etc. These are all the stories we get all the time. So I don't have a firm date at all. The best I can get is a month right now. So we're hoping for a Merry Christmas. That's about where I'm at.
Thanks.
I just asked that as we're watching the inbox, that maybe we think about first deployment with those, because they're likely to go fast, to be to the students that, and you may already have this set up, to the students that are going to rely on it for their primary learning, so the distance learning only students be first in line and so on. I'm sure you already
The first delivery of anything, I got a little bit of a better upgrade as far as our Chrome tablets go, which is actually the last thing we ordered. But even those, when we get those and we can distribute those to K2, we would collect enough Chromebooks then to be able to, of the existing Chromebooks, to be able to, set up some more people. The order they were putting in was the high school first, which is around a 4,900 number, then the 3.8, which is around a 3,800 number, and then the K2. But like I said, we may get the K2 first. I said, I'll take anything right now because that will relieve some of the pressure from some of the other spots. So yeah, we keep an eye on the inbox, sir, and we'll be happy to distribute as soon as we have.
Okay. Any other questions on this item?
Yeah.
Hey, Raquel.
No, you go first. I'm not. It's.
We do have a full agenda here to get to. We can trail this and come back to it later, but we can talk about it all night. Raquel?
We are. And so here's my thing. I worry about this wait list. I'm going to go back to that right now. This wait list of 167, which will shrink down because of the 40 that are going to be admitted. How difficult and how fast, or actually just not how difficult, but how fast can we open up more classrooms at Surfside to accommodate these families that are just waiting there and not sure and unsure? I know we think, just like at other schools, that they'll see that they open, and we're not other. And I don't want like comparing our district to other districts, because I'm about our students here. So I want to know how we can get them into Surfside, get them going to where they feel comfortable, where families feel comfortable, when they get into a pattern and a routine. How fast can we get teachers transferred? If we have teachers that are willing and wanting to go virtually, then can we accommodate and can we move and make this happen sooner than later, and get rid of this 100 and what are we at, 137, and even possibly more now that we're going purple? That is that number going to rise now because of that?
So, Dr. Sparks and Dr. McAteer, I'd like you to talk about the process of creating the virtual classrooms and also the moving nature of this waitlist. It's not like it's been a static waitlist that we have not been able to accommodate families. It's been an ongoing moving target. So, I would like you to talk about the process of staffing the various grade levels and creating the classrooms that we did create to accommodate 534 students. And again, I need the board to understand that this has not been a static wait list that we've been ignoring. We have been working on this moving target for weeks. So can the two of you just talk about that process a little bit?
Sure, I'll jump in first. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Vitale. My name is Todd McAteer. I'm the Associate Superintendent of HR. We've been working with ESS to determine staffing needs for the virtual requests for families and students. Remember, this is all after school started back in August, so we had completed our hiring for the school district in terms of our teachers that were hired to match the projected enrollment that we anticipated coming into the school district. And what the virtual assignments have been are teachers that have requested and are willing to move into that environment for a commitment for the school year. And the steps for that to occur aren't so difficult in terms of identifying staff and moving them over, but it's the backfilling process that's the difficult part, because then you have empty classrooms or rooms without teachers assigned. And that leaves the choice to either divide the students up and redistribute them with the existing staff in a way that's fair and equitable, or go out and recruit and hire new additional teachers to fill that classroom. So that's the piece that HR has been working with ESS. We had completed the initial rounds based on the surveys that we had done and the interest forms that were submitted. We have 29 virtual teachers that are assigned to those classrooms. So we've, I think, done a good job at the initial response to what was given to us. There's always adjustments after school started. So technically, yesterday was our first day of school. So at that point, families make decisions as to based on what's their comfort level and what do they feel like may be best for their family situation. And of course, the changing environment with the county going into purple, I'm sure affects that too. So we've only had really one day of coming back, and we were staffed for what we were given. So now at this point, I think there are some questions as to, usually we give a little bit of time to let families settle and shift and make those decisions in terms of what's going to work best for them. Do a reconfirmation of the needs before we then would go with what could be disrupted is moving more staff, because again, it's the unintended piece of taking a teacher out of the classroom to put them in virtual. So that affects those kids that already were assigned a teacher. And either they're going to get a new teacher or be distributed out with other existing teachers. So to answer the other part of your question, Ms. Alvarez, it does take a little bit of time to do all that. It's not something that we could do overnight. It would take some coordination and identifying numbers and figuring out staff. There's a process with our unions that we go through to make sure that the right staff are considered and it's done correctly. And then the backfilling piece to make sure that those positions are refilled.
Just since we're still on this, is there any way we could use virtual support teachers to hold that position either on the front end or the back end while we back staff? Or do we have any, now that we have kids in the classroom, can we shift any of that resource that we're using as a temporary funding?
Well, we can hire more teachers. There is a cost to it. That's the other piece, is we're trying to make sure that staffing matches our enrollment, right? So we're moving kids from one school site to another or one program to another. And the best way to do that is to then readjust staffing. The virtual teachers we have all have full caseloads. I think Dr. Levy indicated earlier that we're at the capacity with our class size averages for all the children and students in the virtual classes right now.
Jordy, I don't know if you have anything to add, but the bottom line of what we're trying to say is we will continue to, as we continue to work our way through that wait list, and Jordy, I know that you've been working on that person by person and making personal outreach to see if people were still interested in that. We will continue to work on that to ensure that we are able to accommodate everybody. And if we have to hire new teachers, we will. The piece about that is, and why it takes a little bit of time, is it's not clean, right? So the number of students on that wait list are going to run the grade spans of K-5. So it's not a clean process. And so what we're trying to do is work through that. Is there anything that you want to add to what Todd has said, Jordy?
Thank you, Dr. Vitale. Yeah, just each day it's a regular communication with parents who are parents and guardians who are both on the wait list, but those also who are interested in putting their names on the wait list. And so each day we, through our student services team, but also through the Surfside team, share out the most recent form. We've had 3 iterations of the form. The first one started in September. We ran a month-long interest form in September. We admitted 100% of students who were interested there. October, we did the same thing. We admitted 100% of the interested students there. And now we're in November, where we're in our 3rd iteration of an interest form, where, you know, on a daily basis, we're able to admit a few more students off of the wait list and into the Surfside virtual learning program. And really, that's a collaborative effort between HR, student services, and also the Surfside team, where we're finding additional spots that are available. We've staffed, or we've staffed each classroom at capacity, but also included, you know, we've capped each of our classrooms as well to make sure that we can maximize the student movement over to Surfside. And so really each day it's an outreach effort to any family who is interested in Surfside and having them fill out the interest form, but also communicating with families who are on the wait list, what number they are on the wait list, when they can expect to hear back from us. We anticipated this week being able to get back to interested families by Thursday, with having Monday and Tuesday really be an indication of who's showing up. And so we expect to be able to admit an additional 40 or a little bit more by Thursday. And that's kind of that's gonna be our approach moving forward. Is any spot that becomes available, we'll go to the next person on the wait list. And the other thing that's happening is there are more families also who are finding out that the hybrid model is a fit for them, and that it's a safe opportunity for them, and that it's something that their children will benefit from. And so they're withdrawing their names from the Surfside list, and we're re-enrolling them back into their current school site. And so it really is a daily process, which we'll continue to work on.
Okay.
I have one more. I have another thing though. I think because here's my thing is we initially, when we first started with all of this, we asked about being able to accommodate about 1,000 students at this site, and obviously we're not there, and I'm not understanding why. Why at this point we're not quite there, and what are the students currently doing that are on this wait list?
Ms. Alvarez, we actually do have 1,000 students at Surfside, but when we quote the number of around 540, that's just our elementary program. That doesn't include our homeschool program, and it doesn't include our high school program. So yes, there are 1,000 students there, but they're at different grade levels. As Dr. Vitale said, they're in different levels. And so the question becomes the students on the wait list. Right now, because this is the 2nd day of virtual learning and just our B cohort has not yet started. If we go back to the data of the 96.7, I think, students that attended just from our A cohort, we'll have to see what happens. So I wouldn't know what every single student is doing. And I know Dr. Sparks and I have been wanting to check by the end of the week looking at the students who did not show to our in-person learning and cross-reference them with those on the waiting list to see if there's a correlation. But we have not yet been able to do that. It's just the second day. By the end of the week, we do want to see if we can see that correlation.
So is our independent study, the TK or K5 program at Surfside, is that one full as well?
We do have independent study, and I think Dr. Sparks, you did offer it to some families. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, the independent study is not 100% full yet. It is, I think, when you look at the grades 3 through 5, they're a little bit more at capacity than what the K through 2 would be. But we're still continuing to offer families those options. And so, again, a lot of those are individual conversations that we have with families around, if there's more of a pressing need for them to get into a virtual model, earlier than others, then we also offer them, we provide with them with the other options that we have available in our district as well. But the independent study model at Surfside is also approaching capacity.
Further questions, issues, discussions, more? Eric?
Yes. Okay. So I have a series of concerns that I want to bring up, and they're all related to what I think in the planning is, and I want to say this without, I'm not insulting anyone, because we had genuine and real robust feedback from staff on the planning, but I think the planning lacked some a voice from our community and family members. And while we did some of that in school-wide meetings, I don't think that input got integrated into the plans that we are currently enacting across the district. So in some ways, like the reduced kinder. So right now we have our kinder students and TK students that are in school for 1 hour, approximately less than their first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade peers. If you think about the effect that this has on working families across our district who are already overburdened by having to provide childcare when many of the families work multiple jobs, when we think about that, nearly 2 out of every 3 students in our district are considered socioeconomically disadvantaged. Those students have the least resources to compete in this environment that's already challenging and switched up on families. And then we're asking families to come pick up a student 1 hour prior to going to pick up their other kids if they have multiple kids across grade levels. I'm going to talk later about the half day in general, but this first seems like something that we should address quickly to align those schedules so that we're not like completely overly burdening those families that are having to schedule their pickups for their students. So I wanted to engage the board on what they think about providing direction to staff on aligning those schedules as soon as possible. I'm thinking after, at least by the time we return from Thanksgiving break. Does anyone else have thoughts on that topic?
We're in an update and an information item from staff. So I appreciate the lines of questioning. And we can continue to have discussions. I'm trying to see where this ends up going, but you can keep.
If the board is giving us direction to re-engage our work groups to have conversations about, and I understand what you're saying, and I think there was some rationale to that, Mercedes, but I believe I understand your concern from a parent's perspective, and that wait time between the picking up my kinder kid and my third grade kid. So really, I think, Mercedes, if there's a way that we can maybe smush those together a little bit better, I think that to continue to validate our process of collaboration, that would be, if this is the board's interest, to bring that conversation back to our work groups. I think it makes sense. I think it would resonate with our staff. Just being the second day back, I think that giving people the opportunity to adjust, but I do see that that's a pretty, that's a significant gap that maybe we just, there might have been some rationale, but I think we can bring those together a little bit better. Thoughts on that, Mercedes?
Yeah, so I can just share the kindergarten work group was terrific. They worked very, very hard to think about all the things that happen in kindergarten. And I will tell you, I think Dr. Vitale had said that she observed some kindergarten classrooms, and I did too. And it was the smoothest kindergarten I've ever seen. The children knew exactly what to do. I didn't see I went to 4 schools, didn't see one crier, and that was including the parents, which is good. But the students really did well. So I think the kindergarten group really worked hard to make sure that the entry for our youngest students was as smooth as possible and as welcoming. So a couple of things that went into that. The governor put forward the need for certain number of minutes as a minimum. And so the guidelines for kindergarten is 180 minutes. The guidelines for first, second, and third is 230, and from 4th through 12th grade is 200. So there's the gap in those numbers. The additional thing that the kindergarten group thought about is, as we're coming back in a hybrid situation and we're planning all of our...
All right. The next item under personnel is 7A. It's approval of the school calendar for 2022, 2023, not even 2021, 23, right? 22. We did that already, huh? Is there staff presentation?
Yes, President Blessing and board members, 7A is for board approval for the 2022-23 school calendar. We have a calendar committee that's composed of ODA and CSCA appointed members, as well as administrators that meet each year to look at the calendar. Once they come up with a recommended calendar, we bring it to a parent community advisor meeting as well to share that, to get parent input before it comes to you. So in front of you is what I hope will be an in-person 180-day school year that would start August 15th and end June 7th. For our students. It's pretty much in line with current calendars. This one does reflect the new semester version for elementary and secondary schools.
And this is, again, 2022-23, not this coming August next year.
2 years out. We try to post our calendars 2 years in advance so that not only our staff members have the work year calendar, but many of the community members and associations in the city that rely on our school year, we're able to post that for them to make plans as well.
Great.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
I know this is definitely not the appropriate time to bring it up, since we have buy-in from all parties. But I would love to see our district lead on making Election Day a holiday so that our families could participate and our teachers and staff could be at maximum participation in the process. We'll save it, but just a flag for a couple of years down the road.
That is a good point, though I think with this last year, if these things stick, actually Election Day was 4 days this year, like Saturday, Sunday, right, Monday, Tuesday. True. So we might have maybe got that solved if we keep that going. So we get Saturday and Sunday to get out and vote without having to close up. But we'll see. Yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely should celebrate the election. That's for sure. All right, we've got a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, next item, 7B is approval of the service agreement with Benefit Focus. Staff?
Yeah, for board approval, this item is going to replace our program that we currently use called Benefit Bridge. It's going to be a tongue twister to go to Benefit Focus. Yeah, I'm pleased. I can get into the details, but really what this is going to be is a long-term cost saver. It's the exact same price as what we currently pay with Keenan with Benefit Bridge, but it provides a ton more services both for employees as well as staff. It's going to cut down on staff overtime and other overages where we have to contract out for other billing. Because this is an automated system, that connects with other companies. We're able to file our 1095Cs through Equifax reports. We'll be automatically be able to do billing through PayFlex with retirees and COBRA. Right now, a lot of these things that we do comes out of the benefits that's done manually. So this will automate everything, streamline things, give better efficiency and better services to employees with an ongoing cost savings.
Will we be dropping Keenan then, or will you?
We will. So beginning January, we would drop that. What we just currently did, we just closed our current enrollment for our medical coverage, and we use the benefit bridge program. It's a static program. So basically it's just, we put data into it and that's all you can look at. This program will allow you to go in and pick your different plan coverages and do cost comparisons. So it's much more interactive and it'll give better information for employees to make the decisions that they want when they're doing their Medicare coverage decisions.
Okay, I know this district uses Keenan for some testing with staff, like child neglect and child abuse. Will we continue on with those kind of, I guess,
the modules, Todd.
The modules, yeah.
The learning modules will continue, so that's not part of that. This contract, that would continue.
Okay.
So we still have an overall relationship with Keenan on a variety of other subject matters, correct? This just is the benefit bridge and enrollment process, which, by the way, I just finally figured out how to sign up into it this year, and now you're going to change it on me. I'm sure I got to get a whole new password and everything, right?
It'll be even easier. Yeah, we'll continue. Keenan is a broker, so they represent the district. When we also use them for our other medical plans, which we run. They're self-run. So our vision and dental, those are self-run. They also are a broker to help us with VIVA, as well as look at other programs and provide the modules, workers' comp, a variety of other services that support the district.
Okay.
So it's saving money. Great.
This will save us money and make us a better district.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Todd. All right, the next item is item 9A, approval of agreement with Addiction Treatment Technologies, LLC, DBA, Care Solace for mental health care coordination. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Blessing. This is the service that we talked about in our presentation that acts as a conduit for our staff and our families to access vetted community-based mental health or the community-based services that they need or through their private medical insurance. This is an opportunity for us to provide 24 hours a day referral services in multilingual approach. And this will be $16,000, $16,700, which will be paid for by CARES funding.
And this, if I read the backup material, it's a potentially an annual renewal contract that would be at $2 a student, as I read that correctly, for up to 5 years, if we're successful and we like it.
That's correct. And we do have Medicare funding that is specifically targeted for this type of service. We did bring it to our staff, and staff was interested in having an opportunity. We feel that by putting it out this year, we can really look to see what our usage rates are. We want to make sure we collect data on how many people use it, the referrals, and the results, as we like to do with all of our partners.
Great. I think it's a good new service, actually. Any questions for staff? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and 2 seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, next item under business, 11A, purchase of electric school bus for the transportation department. Shannon?
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Board, you've previously approved tonight in general consent the award of an electric bus. This item allows for the purchase of a larger charger, and seating capacity to be installed in the electric bus.
Very good. Any questions for staff?
How many
Well,
electric buses do we have? Will we have?
Currently, we have just over 60 buses.
Not
How many
electric.
of them are electrical?
Oh, sorry, I apologize. I'm sorry, trustee. This will be our first one. This was the one I think you recall getting a free ride about 2 years ago when our director of transportation came and showed us the grant that we were applying for at that time. Now we have been awarded the bus that you actually get to ride in.
What does a typical bus of this same capacity run? That's the old school diesel engines or the LNG gas. I guess the clean gas compared to this 400,000. What's the difference markup ballpark?
Right. So this
price.
Oh, wait, this is an expensive bus for us, right? But the 400,000 that we're being awarded, it also includes the charging station for us. So
Right.
Our director was able to write that into the grant so that really there is no cost to this. What staff is recommending is a larger capacity so that we can make sure that we meet all of our daily routes in addition to any field trips that we may have in the future without ever getting too short or too tight on those miles.
Yeah, I'm just seeing down the road. I mean, we're not going to get grants for all these buses in the future, I suspect, but maybe we will. I don't know. But what's the typical bus cost us its same comparable size? That's just a question today.
Super expensive. So we're looking anywhere from 3 to 500,000.
For a typical bus today?
Well, for an electric bus.
No, I got that. 400,000 we're paying for this. What's the old school bus cost?
About 200,000.
Thank you. That's what
It's like an RV.
Right. So we're double up to get electric, but it's a grant, so we're good.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. I love it. Any other questions for staff? Need a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Wonderful. Got a motion from Raquel, a second from Eleanor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Our first electric bus, all electric. Hooray. Thank you, staff. Next item is adoption of resolution number 08-2021, establish an associate student body special revenue fund. Shannon?
Great, thank you. Board, what this is a new inclusion from the CDE to allow all school districts in the state of California to have a mechanism to report ASB funds. So this will be included in our SACS reports during our interim and financial reporting period. So you'll see a new fund established with this report through the ASB. So this is just a compliance mandate that's required for us to have a resolution.
So will each student body fund, like Oceanside, El Camino, have a separate ASB fund in this special revenue account? Or will they be combined?
It'll be combined.
Okay.
I'm very much in favor of this. This will add a lot of transparency and clarity to ASB funding, and it will limit the number of individuals who may have historically abused ASB funding in certain districts, not necessarily this district, but other districts. So I'll make a motion to accept this.
Got a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Raquel. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. All right, items 11C, establishing a formal process for the renaming of San Luis Rey Elementary School. Staff?
Yes, so we are bringing a formal process to the board to engage in the renaming of San Luis Rey Elementary School. As you're aware, we have merged the Garrison and San Luis Rey campus and have an interest in renaming that campus to be more in line with the unification of those schools and in line with the future of that school. So we've put together a process built on board policy. Matthew Jennings, our Director of Communications, is excited to lead this project. And he will be working to form a diverse group of Oceanside citizens to form a Citizens Advisory Committee. And it will be a committee throughout the city of Oceanside, and we will be taking applications for people who would like to be involved in that process. This school is a school in our district, and it is something that we believe, learning from our prior experience, trying to do things a little bit differently to have a different outcome. So one of the things that people were interested in is that this is this is a school inside our district, inside our city. And so there might be people outside of just the school community that are interested in being involved in that process. So we are going to open up, and this is per our board policy 1220. We are going to open that up and form a citizens advisory committee. We'll be taking an application process. And we're sort of modeling that after our 7-Eleven committee that we've used in dealing with our asset management process. So no fewer than 7, no more than 11 people on this committee. We will also use board policy 7310 to conduct the renaming process. And all of this information will be on a website that we've created specifically for this process, and that website will go live tomorrow. And there'll be an application process for the committee, and then we will follow board policy 7310 in renaming the school facility. And just to give the board some information, the facility could be named after individuals living or deceased, or entities that have made outstanding contributions, including financial contributions perhaps to the community, individuals living or deceased who've made contributions statewide, nationwide, or worldwide. The committee will review that process as Mr. Jennings has put that in place. The intent is for that committee to then bring considerations to the Board of Education. So possibly, as many as 3 names, depending on where the discussion in the committee goes, so that ultimately the board will have choices in what they would like that school to be named. The timeline is we will put together the committee between now and December. In January, we'll have a call for submissions, and we'll take submissions from people who want to participate in the process as far as their idea for what the school should be called and should be named, so that people will have there'll be a greater access for people to give their contributions. And then the committee will begin meeting in February, March, and somewhere between April and June, we will bring a recommendation to the board. We want to have full, I hate this word, but I'm saying it, full transparency on this process. That's why Mr. Jennings has created a website completely dedicated to this process, so that citizens understand why we are engaging in this process, how we are engaging this process, how they can participate in this process, and the timeline for this process. And Matthew Jennings, since you're so excitingly going to lead this process, if there's anything you'd like to add, feel free.
I appreciate it, Dr. Vitale. The only thing I would say is that it will be committee driven, and it will be highly engaged with the community at large, to make sure that the committee is taking into considerations some deep thinking approaches to how we find a new name for San Luis Rey Elementary School. There will be, the committee will elect 2 co-chairs that will help facilitate the process and ensure the fidelity of, collecting all of the responses that come in from the community for suggesting names, and ensuring the fidelity of the process when it comes time for the committee to present recommendations to the board.
I have a comment or question. Will the committee be involved with changing the mascot or changing the school colors?
Our thoughts about the school mascot is that we'd really like that to be student driven, and also running sort of a parallel process is that we know that the school has strong interest in also having tied to them the name School of the Arts. So the school level is going to run that parallel process through the leadership of the principal. So they'll be running that parallel, but we really think the mascot really needs to be with the students. So I'm guessing, well, not guessing, I know that Principal Aranda will lead the students and staff in that conversation, but we'd really like to include the kids. So that will come after the name because there might need to be some relationship between what's the name of the school, you know, if indeed then it's School of the Arts, and what is the mascot that supports that name. So we'll sort of be running them parallel, but one track will be ahead of the other, if that makes sense.
Does that include school colors, or we're not going to focus on that?
I have to say, I haven't thought about the school colors. I don't know if the staff has concern. I don't know that answer. And so I will be throwing that question to Principal Aranda to see if they've talked about that because I don't recall if they have or if they have not.
Typically your branding would kind of flow into that one same space. So if we were able to work through the process of a name and then the community were able to focus on what their mascot is, oftentimes that's going to pick up the school colors. And so that would be kind of a branding conversation that would really need to be had in totality so that the school could be, in a sense, born kind of all at once. They've got a name, they've got a mascot, they've got their branding and their colors. And some of that may come from just that mascot, like we've heard Sea Gators, you know, so maybe that's green, you know, there's kind of conversations that come out of that general mascot branding that the community will do together.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
I'm sorry, I have a question. There, of course, we always invite board members to be part of our committees. We can have no more than 2 board members on this committee. So if you're interested, you can either talk about it now, or you can just let me know if you're interested. And if there's more than 2, we'll have to arm wrestle, but.
Draw straws.
I obviously would want to be interested. You know the reasons behind that. I would.
All right, Raquel, you're in. Anybody else want to be on?
Pending availability, whether it's during school hours or not, then I would volunteer as well to support the community in the effort. Thank you, Matthew, for stepping up.
All right.
Okay, I have a question.
You're muted.
I have a question for other board members. Will they have the opportunity to do any input, write a letter or whatever?
Everybody in the community will be invited to submit a name. So everyone in this meeting can submit a name of interest if they would like. And remember, the ultimate authority lies with the 5 of you in determining the name.
Yeah, great question, Eleanor. Dr. Vitale, I would add that we don't have the forum live yet. The goal would be to have that in January to open that up to the community at large. And it will be sent out many ways. You know, we'll communicate to families directly, of course. We'll put it on social media, but it'll point everyone back to the website that we've developed for this process, and the form for submitting a name will be there. So yes, you can absolutely participate. Students can participate. Community members can participate. It will be an open process.
And you can submit multiple names, I suspect, too, right?
Yes. You can submit multiple names. Again, you won't be able to do that yet until we get the committee formed and we call for those submissions in January, but yes.
Great. We already kicked the bunch around a month or so ago, right? Cool. Well, I got Eric and Raquel, Eric pending and Raquel interested in being on the committee. And like Julie said, if any of you, Julie or Eleanor or Stacy want to get in there, let Julie know. And if they don't have to draw straws, then they won't have to. And otherwise, Raquel and Eric will run with it. All right. So we need a motion to approve the formal process. Can I get
I'll
that?
make that motion.
Thank you, Eleanor.
A second.
Second from Raquel. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Wonderful. All right. Policy development. We got 4 of them. Let's take them one at a time. Policy 12A, approval of deletion of board policy 5118, open enrollment act transfers. Staff?
Yes, good evening. This removal of policy is to align with our current practice. The Open Enrollment Act was aligned to our API, which is no longer in place. So this is an obsolete board policy that we recommend removal.
All right. Any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
I had a question.
Yeah, Eleanor. Oh, I'm not hearing you, Eleanor. There we go.
Does this reinforce the concept of community schools,
Neighborhood schools, like?
neighborhood schools? Okay.
Yes. So right now, we board has already taken action previously that we want to ensure that students are going to their neighborhood schools and that we do not approve transfers except by required by law.
Thank you.
I've got a motion from Dr. Stacy Begin. Does I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Eleanor. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Item 12B, approval of revision to board policy 4161 personnel related to paid sick leave, substitute, temporary, short-term employees. Todd?
Yeah, just a very small editing update to make it in alignment with the Assembly Bill law. It just changes in our old language. We had it at 24 hours and it moves it to 48 hours of paid sick days that an employee, a substitute can carry and submit for a school year.
You said 48 sick hours, not sick days, right?
48 hours.
Yeah, gotcha. 48 days is a lot. All right, this is compliant with state law. Any questions? No? Got a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Thanks,
second.
Stacy. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Item D, approval of revision to board policy 5145.3, non-discrimination and harassment. Mercedes.
I think we had C for report cards first, Mr. Blessing.
Yeah, I was going to say,
My apologies. I skipped it. My apologies. Let's do the C. Approval of revision to board policy 5121.1, report cards, purpose of report cards.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blessing. We're very excited. Over the last 2 years, we've been thinking about the importance of revising our report cards to be aligned with our state standards and with our thinking about the importance of communicating clearly to parents student progress. So we have a committee that's been working tirelessly for the last year, and we are very excited that in December we will be able to bring forward to you a finalized report card that we will be piloting this year that is family friendly, focused on student achievement. And so this is really exciting work. This is a first reading to align our policy that will then also align with our report card. So thank you.
Excellent. Any question?
I just have a comment.
Yeah. Eleanor.
Oh, okay. I was one that was very much involved with writing and carrying the state standards Common Core to fruition. I'm really excited about this. My concern, again, I haven't seen the report card, so it's a pre-observation. That the report card, this instrument, really does reflect the standards, and that it's from a positive standpoint in terms of evaluating the student, the scholar, and that there is some accountability, especially at the high school level, where we know that sometimes students get to sign their own report cards. Okay. So basically, two things. Number one, that there is true accountability. It really does reflect the standards and how well that child, that scholar, has achieved those standards. And I don't know, maybe some built-in protection in terms of students who sign their own report cards.
Mercedes, we'll be bringing a presentation to the board on this item in December, correct, along with final approval of the policy. So we just want you to know that more detailed information will be presented to the board.
Great. Okay.
That's my concerns.
I just want to say thanks to all the people on that report card committee, especially some of our parents that were having huge issues, brought up those concerns, and managed to step up onto the committee and try to help out. I love it.
I agree with that. Thank you so much.
That was my basic thing because I know that some of the parents out there actually put a lot of time and effort into this and speaking at board meetings, and so this was pushed a little bit harder because of that. So I think that, and I appreciate everybody's work and just moving forward with this sooner than later. So thank you.
Wonderful. All right, do I have a motion?
You have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second.
Are we approving it? Just first reading.
First reading.
This is first read?
Oh, this is the first read. We don't need to.
This is the first read. We'll bring.
We don't need to make a motion at this point. I'm just so excited.
I think we do need to pass a first read. So I've got a motion and a second, and the agenda is asking to approve the revisions. So am I
to the policy?
Oh.
But we don't know what the revisions are.
Julie, help me out here. Whichever way you guys want.
Yes, we would like approval of the first reading, and we will bring back the final policy to you in December along with a presentation.
And we can, at that point in time, to revise or adjust it as we see fit.
Absolutely. But
Okay,
also,
that works.
if you have feedback between now and then, that would even be better.
Well,
you have a couple weeks.
Does that sound all right, Eleanor?
That's fine. Is that an amendment to the motion for Stacy or what? We're just moving on.
No, I made a motion to approve it as a first reading.
Okay, then I'll second it. That motion. Okay.
All right. We've got a motion and a second to approve this board policy as a first read. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We'll have to staff clarify those in the future for first reads and seconds because we've had that in the past and we missed that here, I think. At any rate, okay.
My apologies. We knew that we were going to bring a presentation, and so we just wanted to have, the lead up to it. So yes, we'll not do that.
It tripped us up. All right, no problem. We got through it. All right, D, approval of revision to board policy 5145.3, non-discrimination and harassment. And this is for adoption, I'm presuming. Or is it a first read? It's for adoption. Staff presentation.
Yes, board. This is for the adoption of a non-discrimination and harassment policy. Our board has been a leader in this area, and this expands our policy to include medical conditions as being one of the protected areas for non-discrimination and harassment.
Very good. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. The policy is adopted. And finally, E, adoption of a new board policy 5141.5 regarding mental health. Mercedes?
Yes, we're very excited to put forward a board policy on mental health that focuses on preventive strategies, education, and support for our students. That we will make sure that we're going to be providing instruction that will help students be prepared to have a healthy mental, social, emotional development. We are going to have health education courses, and this is work that our counselors have started and that we are looking at the SEL competencies that we're working on. So we're very excited to have this as a policy.
Thank you. I'll make a motion. We adopt.
Great. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion, comments? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. All right, that completes the agendized items tonight from staff work. We have public comments. I believe we have just one, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe there's more. But Anne, will you call out the first speaker? And
we have three.
3 speakers. Okay, great.
Yes. The first speaker will be Lisette Simano. and then Nancy Polito. I may be pronouncing your names wrong. And then Todd Madison.
Greg, you want to promote the correct folks?
Set, you're all set. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, OUSD. I am joining in today to speak about some known concerns and disappointments towards OUSD and its failing to provide us, the TWBI parents, an option to continue virtual learning for our scholars. I am disappointed with the district because we, the parents of TWBI scholars, were not given the option, like every other OUSD parent, to continue virtual learning through Surfside, at least not in the two-way immersion program. OUSD tried to assure me that I would not lose my child's spot in the program should I choose to go to Surfside and have them start an English-only class. I am frustrated because I do not want to, nor should I even be considering to need to pull my two scholars from this program because of the school district's choosing to not hire or even consider a TWBI teacher for these scholars. I am a single parent who works full time and I have no transportation for my two children for the days that they need to be on campus, nor could I even pick up a kindergartner at 12:10 and my first grader at 1:10. The school district then started a survey for parents to submit their interest for us before and after school program, which gave the start time at 7:30 and pick up time at 3 p.m., which was great. I will do what I needed to do to make these dates work for the 2 days. I will have you know that I was not aware of the interest form for the extended enrichment program, nor were the other parents who I shared this information with. No email or letter was sent to me to advise me of the need for me to complete this. It was not until I reached out that I learned about it. Today is November 10th, and I still have not heard anything from anyone regarding my status on any wait list. Children have started as of yesterday, and no answer or update has been given. It is not fair for my child being in the group B. If it was not for my child being in group B, I wouldn't know what to do. My first grader has put in so much effort, time in learning Spanish. She is now reading, writing, and is able to tell short stories in Spanish. I'm here to advocate for him and every other student that is being impacted by this pandemic to say to OUSD that they need and deserve better. And so do the parents who don't have it within their capacity to be able to attend today or any other day. Reflect back onto the quote by the Education Alliance Brown University Center for Allied Linguistics that is posted on the USD website, which reads, well implemented, two-way immersion programs are amongst the most impressive forms of education available in the United States. And now ask yourself if this program is being fairly implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette, and we'll reach out to you. Next speaker. And will you call the next speaker's name once again, please?
Todd Madison.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Hi. So I'm Todd Madison. I'm still a parent of 3 great OUSD kids, and I'm no longer a candidate for school board. People made their decision last week. Best of luck to Mike. I had great support from parents, ended up standing on over 5,400 doorsteps and driveways, speaking to thousands of people. It was a wonderful experience. Despite the vote for the status quo, it's clear a lot of parents are not happy with the direction of our district. If being on the state's watch list for insolvency and scoring 40 points below standard on state testing is what we heard described earlier as healthy, I'm sure many don't really see it that way. Anecdotal evidence is one thing, but over 6,000 people, slightly less than 50%, were unhappy enough to vote for change. And more importantly, parents are voting with their feet. Enrollment is down almost 10% this year. This could be huge in next year's budget. Ignoring the voices of parents is not working well. I commend Eric tonight for his efforts to change that. In the last year, we've seen the district ignore the wishes of the majority in the spring on reopening plans and continue to ignore parent priorities and spending, choosing to add to our deficit spending to fund extra raises for district employees. We've seen our board ignore the importance of public comment. We hear it's important. If so, why are we speaking at the end of the meeting, as late as it is? Making parents who want to be heard sit through the meeting for that reflects the true importance. We also see that these meetings are not recorded for parents who can't make it. Most districts do that. The fact that OUSD doesn't seems a clear signal on the lack of importance here. Tonight, we saw approval of the school calendar. 0 parents on the committee, of course, and no objections by the board to that. Obviously, the important voices are employees. Parents need not be involved. Why bother getting involved when nothing will ever happen is just as true now as it has ever been. So you'll be happy to know I'm scaling down on this. I've heard the voice of the people. It's just not that important to them. As I've said before, OUSD has been great for our kids. We're lucky people. Our youngest has 2 years to go. She's going to a good school with great teachers, and she'll do fine. I've always pushed for things that help those who are not as fortunate as we are, but it's evident my opinion here is not shared by the majority. I'll still be paying attention to what's going on. I can't help that. I'm sure you'll see me from time to time when financial decisions are on the agenda. No doubt our board will continue to spend money on special interests rather than kids. I'll be here to point that out when it happens. Anyone who wants to stay in tune with developments in our district in a way that allows open discussion and doesn't discourage constructive criticism because it's not teamwork is welcome to join or continue participating through the Facebook Oceanside Unified Parent Network group. A winning team looks at how everyone is playing and doesn't avoid pointing out ways to improve. All viewpoints are welcome. Thanks again to everyone. Best of luck to all the parents and kids out there.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. Thank you for running. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to a final action board staff discussion. Are there any comments or actions or discussions by board members to wrap up the evening? Eric?
Just make sure that you're following the protocols. I haven't been in school. I know that like it can get tiring, and everybody can just living in life right now. It can get tiring, but follow the protocols. That's how we stay learning in person with each other and take care of each other.
Anybody else?
Just stay safe out there. Wear your mask.
Yep. Yeah. I'll just say thank you all very much. And Eric, I will apologize to you and the rest of the board members. I lost my cool a little bit earlier this evening. I was wandering into thinking we were amending MOUs, or I don't know where my head was going, but I appreciate this discussion amongst all of us. I know staff does too, and they'll take our words at heart and move forward and bring us some adjustments as we need to do them. So with that, I'll adjourn this meeting and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks, if not sooner. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.